Welcome to another day of Knitmas. I am doing a stash tour of my yarn and my fiber. I consider myself to have about, I'd say like a mid-sized stash. It's definitely not huge, but it's also not small. Here's the majority of yarn that I'll be walking you through. I have a few sweater quantities that I've purchased over this past year that I'm just waiting to cast on the sweater for. And then I just have a lot of like single skeins that I've picked up over the years, as well as another bin of like leftover yarn and some other sock yarn and stuff. So we're gonna go through all of it. So let's dive into this. I have a Billy bookcase here from IKEA that I put these glass doors on, and you can see two of these shelves are yarn, and then this shelf down here is fiber, and we'll get into that as well. So I'm going to start on this shelf, which is all my sweater quantities, starting with this Rowan felted tweed. I bought this from a D-stash because I liked the color, and I believe this is a discontinued color, but it's called Pickle. So I do have a project planned for this. Down here is my Brooklyn Tweed tones that I bought when they announced they were going out of business. And so I got this on sale and I bought as much as I could. This is in the colorway Zest, which is one of my favorite colors. And I have a colorwork sweater planned for this. Back here I have these 3 skeins of Lang Yarns Linello, and this is a color changing yarn. That is the color. It's a cotton linen viscose blend, so I have it saved for a summer top. And I bought this when I was traveling and I was in a yarn shop, and they had an amazing selection of Lang yarns and some other European yarns that I don't get to shop for in person very often. And I was knitting with this yarn in a different color. I was knitting my Pintapillar pullover, and I was just really drawn to this color. So I decided to pick up 3 skeins of it because I wanted to buy something from that shop. So that'll be a next summer thing for sure. In this basket, I have a bunch of Rolex that I made from some fleece that I'm processing. I have a couple different colors. I have one that I carded some green into, and then some others that are just the bare wool. But I've really gotten into making Rolex. It's a lot of fun. And then lastly, over here, I have a sweater quantity of Sandnes Garn Double Sunday in this gorgeous bright green. This is in the color Statement Green. And I bought this to knit the Agnet cardigan by Petite Knit, but I think I'm gonna switch gears and do something else with it. Moving on to this shelf, over here I have just a few mini skeins. I have this Coast to Coast mini skein that came in a set. I also have this little mini skein set of Arbor from Brooklyn Tweed. I bought this, I want to say like 2 years ago, and I think it's supposed to make a hat. As soon as it arrived, I was a little bit skeptical that this would be enough yarn to make that, because this is a DK weight, not a fingering weight, but it does come with, let's see, it's 10 gram mini skeins, so that is 29 yards. And then I also have this cute little set from Embry Fiber, and this has a kind of funny story behind it. So we were on a road trip, we were headed back home, and we took a wrong turn, so then we just pulled into a parking lot to like stop and navigate, figure out where we were going. Like 20 feet away from us was this little fiber festival. It was so random, so of course we had to stop in, and they had, I think they had like a goat or maybe a sheep there, and they just had a few vendors, but this was one of them. A hand dyer, and this is just like a little sock set of superwash yarn. Moving along, I have my sock yarn here. I have a couple of skeins that I've used already, but they still have a lot left on them, so I just put them back on the shelf. This is a Zauberball Stark 6, and this is also from Chopoval. I can't remember what they're called, but it's like one of the little cakes, and I knit a pair of socks out of each of these. And then I have 3 more Zauberballs that I have yet to use. I've collected these over like 6 years, and I have used several of them already for socks. But yeah, this one I think is 6 or 7 years old, and you can see the price is $24. And then the newest one that I've gotten, 2022, and that's the price of that one. So that's inflation for you. This is a full skein. I just caked it up, but this is from Knitmas Fiber Arts in a mini, like a fade mini skein set that I got. It was supposed to be an Advent. I got it last year, but I bought it after the holiday, and I knit a sweater out of the fade. This is another really old skein. This is from Blissful Knits, and it's I think it's a sock yarn. Yes. Oh, and it has cashmere in it, which I didn't realize. Bougie. I bought this as a souvenir skein when I was traveling through Portland quite a few years ago now. I need to just knit this up into a pair of socks because I think they would turn out really nice. I bought it from Pearl Fiber Arts, which I still have the little pin that they gave me, as well as the business card, but I'm pretty sure Pearl Fiber Arts doesn't exist anymore, sadly. This is a skein from Luminous Brooklyn. I bought this when I visited New York City earlier this year, and I bought it from the shop Argyle because they hand dye this yarn line. They were awesome. I highly recommend that yarn shop. He gave us a tour of their dye studio, which was so cool, and I loved this colorway. So vibrant, and I am thinking I'll make a pair of socks for myself out of this, but I haven't quite decided. Another superwash merino skein from Trilogy Yarns. This I think I'll knit a pair of socks for my boyfriend at some point. I have these 2 skeins from Coast to Coast. These were part of a 3 skein mystery club based on soup. I think this was last year or maybe the year before, and I just thought that was a great idea. So this one is named Hearty Stew, and this one is Potato. I love Coast to Coast. She's one of my favorite hand dyers. Also from that New York trip, I visited Nitty City and I bought their shop colorway. It's called Manhattan Hinge. That is referring to a sunset that happens once a year, where the sun sets like right in between the skyscrapers in Manhattan, and it's really pretty. And we were one day short of getting to see that, but I loved that that was their shop exclusive colorway. Here's another Trilogy Yarns. This is their Glamorous, and this was a mystery skein. I was in a yarn shop and they had a few skeins discounted but wrapped up so you couldn't see them, and so this is what I got. I have this little 50-gram sock skein from Tiny Human Knits. My boyfriend is a big fan of green and black together, so that's why I bought this, and I think her self-striping yarn is just gorgeous. And then I just have this Cascade Yarns Heritage that I bought for a specific project. I didn't end up using it, so now I just have some cream yarn. Moving on, I have a small selection of Spin Cycle yarns. These are all dyed in the wool. I have the Rusted Rainbow colorway that I got from a D-stash. That was a really good find. This middle one is Dead Reckoning, which I also got from a D-stash from a knitwear designer. And I have 2 skeins of this. One is just caked up. And then this is Ghost Ranch, which was left over from a colorway project. I had an entire skein left over. Now we're getting into the fluffy yarn that I have. So I have this skein of Sandnes Garn Borset Alpaca. This was left over from a sweater project. I have this mohair from Imbury Fiber. This is that same hand dyer of the mini skein set that we stumbled upon on a road trip. And I just have this skein of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. I bought this to go with some other yarn I have for a beanie. Okay, down here I just have some fingering weight yarn that's not for socks. I have these 2 skeins of Kelborn Woolens Cricket. I bought this when I was on a work trip and I just stopped into a yarn shop. To be honest, I don't know why I bought it. I've had it for quite a while now and I don't know what to make with it, but I think I just liked the kind of handspun look. This was when I was getting into handspun myself, so I was just drawn to it. And now I'm realizing this could definitely be Christmas colors. So maybe I need to plan a Christmas project with this. I have 2 skeins of this lovely Valley wool. This is from a sheep farm out of Nevada, I think. Yeah, the farm is in Nevada, and then the yarn is milled in Wyoming. These colors are beautiful. They're the natural colors of the fleece. And this is 100% Rambouillet. And I really like this yarn. I just don't exactly know what to do with it. I think maybe a color work project could be cool. The last skein I have from my New York trip this year is this loop yin yang that I got from Cleo's yarn shop. And I just liked the colors of this yarn a lot. And I've never seen this in person. This is a very expensive yarn. I paid $40 for this skein. I feel like that is a lot for a 100-gram skein, but it's really pretty, and I was thinking of making myself a hat out of this. And then last, I have this Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock Light, and I'm currently working on a long-term project out of this. I'm knitting my boyfriend a tie. I bought 2 skeins, and this is the second skein, so this is technically in a project at the moment. Okay, now we're getting into the DK/worsted and handspun over here. So first I have this Fibra Natura Cobblestone. This is a really cool yarn, and it's a huge skein. It is 600 yards. I thought this was DK, but I think this is actually a sport weight. But I bought this for the colorwork portion of a sweater that never panned out, but I would still like to make some sort of like colorwork yoke sweater with this. Or maybe a vest, actually. That could be really cool. This is some alpaca that I bought from a Montana alpaca farm. It's a really pretty color. It is only 200 yards, so I'm not quite sure what I would do with this, although it's very soft. So maybe some like mitts. This is another single skein of worsted weight yarn. This is Noro Madara. I bought this from my local yarn shop. Just one of those purchases where I was in the shop and saw it and decided to pick it up. I think it was on sale, and I was thinking a beanie out of this would look really nice. I have these 2 skeins left over from a sweater that I knit my boyfriend. This is Cascade 220, and this is, I lost the tag, but this is a Malabrigo yarn. And he said he would wear a matching beanie, so that might be what I make out of this. This is a really cool skein. This is hand-dyed yarn from the Orkney Islands in Scotland. This is also a souvenir skein, but I did not pick it up, unfortunately. I would love to go to Scotland, but I did receive it from a family member as a souvenir, which was so thoughtful. And this is hand-dyed Shetland, and it's woolen spun, so very excited to find a project for this. And then last of the like thicker weights, this is 2 skeins of Blue Sky Fibers Woolstock Worsted. This is one of my favorite yarns, and I was buying a yarn to make a gift, and I bought a couple different colors, and I ended up not using this color. So the plan as it stands is to use this mohair with this yarn to make a beanie. And then last on this shelf is my handspun, which I typically knit with my handspun pretty quickly, so I don't have a lot of it. But this is my very first skein of handspun. It is quite inconsistent and it's very underplied. This was from a Malabrigo Nube. And then this is my second handspun skein. I feel a little too precious about these first 2 skeins to knit with them, so I'll probably just keep them. This was from some Sweet Georgia fiber. This is just a little skein that I spun up from a bunch of leftover singles. And then these 2 skeins I spun during Tour de Fleece. This was my first woolen prep spin, so I tried long draw for the first time. And then this little skein is from a sample of my own carded fleece that I washed and processed myself, so I just wanted to see how it was going to spin up. The rest of my yarn is in this big tub, which looks like a lot. It's mostly leftovers and then my other sock yarn. Everything is pretty much organized. It's all in its own plastic bag, either by project or by weight of yarn. This is all fingering weight yarn and it's mostly sock yarn. I have some old Knit Picks Felici. I have some random skeins. This is Knit Picks palette. This one is some Patons Croy, some old Patons Croy. Most of this sock yarn is at least 5 years old. I used to knit a lot of socks from commercial yarn, so that's where a lot of this yarn comes from. I have this colorway of Drops Fable. I really like this yarn for socks. And then I have this colorway as well. This would be a really good Christmas color. Some more Drops Fable, Knit Picks Stroll, and some more Patons Croy. This is more fingering weight yarn, and these are all leftovers. So they're all partial skeins from old projects, and I'm not going to spend the time to go through all of them. Half of these you can't even get anymore, so. This bag is all worsted and DK weight, and I would say most of these are leftovers as well. I'm also gonna say I don't think it's worth going through all of these, but I've just got Woolstock worsted, some discontinued yarn, some Knit Picks in here. This is like some BFL from a project. This is some Brooklyn Tweed shelter from a project. Just a lot of like worsted and DK weight leftovers. This bag is just black and white worsted weight yarn. And now we're getting into all of my leftovers from specific projects. So I have all of this Knit Picks palette that was left over from my Ariana cardigan that I crocheted. And I also have the granny squares that were left over from that project. This is some Knit Picks palette that actually was an abandoned project and I just haven't figured out what to do with it. These are the leftovers from my handspun traveler. These are all the mini skein leftovers from the sweater that I'm wearing right now. I could knit a whole other colorwork yoke sweater out of this. This is the yarn and swatch left over from my Bone sweater. And lastly, some Rowan Alpaca Soft DK. These were the leftovers from my Ohika sweater by Orlana Souk. And that's it. And I'll just quickly run through all of my fiber, starting with these two 2-ounce bumps of Fat Cat knits. I bought these because I was deliberating what color I wanted for my handspun traveler for the ties. And I bought 3 different colors and these were the 2 that I didn't choose. I think it's kind of fun though to have like some extras in my stash. This is 8 ounces of Shetland fiber from Walnut Farm Designs that I actually got from a D-stash. And it's kind of hard to see, but I turned all of it into Rolags. I have these 2 braids of Hello Yarn Targi in the color Deep Down. I feel like next fall would be the perfect time to dive into this. I also have this Superwash Merino from Nest Fiber that I got in a club last year. No, 2 years ago. The December 2023 color. I have 4 more ounces of Shetland. This is a braid from Woolfiend Fiber. I bought this from a D-stash, but I did check out Woolfiend's shop and they have some really cool colorways. And I bought this because it matched the Hello Yarn fiber that I have. So I'll probably do a combo spin with these. And then lastly, I have this 4 ounces of this white Polypay that I got at a fiber festival a couple years ago. And it's just been waiting for the right project, but I bought it because I thought it would be nice to be able to mix in with other fiber. Plus I wanted to try out Polypay because I've heard good things about this fiber. And then I just have some leftovers from a braid of BFL. All right, well that was my yarn and fiber stash tour. For today's question, I want to know, what is your favorite treat or splurge after a long week? After we've had a week, we really like to go walk to our favorite pizza place and get some good pizza, drink some beer or wine, and just hang out with the bartenders and relax and be a little bit social after the week. So let me know what your answer to that question is, and I will see you in just a couple days.